morning. Yogeshji, with me is Mr. Tapan Ray. He's the managing director of.
I know.
You know Tapan. You are in Baroda, so obviously.
I was in Baroda, I know him.
So, hi.
So I think we can start, or we should. I think most of the persons have joined. उसको यहाँ बिठा दो। How many have joined? 30.
Good morning, sir. This is Dr. Vidya from Symbiosis International University.
Very good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, sir. I'm just in a not a very office space. As I told you, I'm traveling, so I'm at the airport.
It's okay.
So I'll join from there. So we'll take a while to start, right?
Just 2-3 minutes only.
No problem. No problem.
I think most of the people have joined.
5, 6, 7, 8 लोग हैं।
तरनजीत जी। Good morning. Good morning to all of you. Should we start the session?
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
So on behalf of, so we start the session now. YouTube link है ना?
YouTube link संजीव सिंह सर
भी start यहाँ जरूरत नहीं है recording तो कर it's okay. So good morning. On behalf of Ministry of Education and University of Delhi, I welcome you all in 6th parallel breakaway session on developing educational institutions in Gift City. We have with us, I will introduce all the panelists and participants one by one, but just to name, we have with us Shri Injati Srinivas, Chairman, International Financial Service Center Authority, Gandhinagar, and Shri Sanjay Mankar, Chairman, Gift City, as a co-chair, and Shri Taranjit Singh Sandhu, who is the Indian Ambassador to USA, has given us the his message and a video recording. We will share that. And Shri Ashish Dhawan, Center Square Foundation, Shri Sudhir Jain, Vice Chancellor, Banaras Hindu University. When it comes to participants, we have Shridhar Rajgopalanji from Founder Education Initiatives, Shri Shail Kumarji, CEO, Ekarid, Shri Ma'am Kaku Nakate, Country Head, Bank of America in India, Shri Pramath Rajsina, Founder, Dean of Indian School of Business, and Dr. Vidya Yeravkar, Chairperson, FICCI Higher Education Committee, and she's from Symbiosis Institute. As we all know, this sixth breakout session is specifically focusing on the developing educational institution is Gift City, Gandhinagar. And we all know that Honorable Finance Minister announced in Union Budget 22-23. And today, Honorable Prime Minister has also talked about that. And Honorable Finance Minister said, world-class foreign universities and institutions will be allowed in Gift City to offer courses in financial management, fintech, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, free from domestic regulations. This is important, free from domestic regulations, except those instituted by International Financial Service Center Authority to facilitate availability of high-end human resources for financial services and technology. This was a statement given in during the budget announcement. And as we all know, Government of India has approved the setting up of India's International Financial Service Center in multi-service SCZ in Gift City. And this initiative is very, very important in 21st century to revamp the education facilities in India. We know that this will help us to retain the outbound students and reduce outflow of foreign exchange. This may also increase the inbound students from neighboring countries and inflow of foreign exchange in India, increase opportunities for more Indian students to get foreign degrees while being on the Indian soil. Faculty and students exchange between Indian and foreign educational institutions will be easier and promote exchange of knowledge. So many, many good things will come out of such initiatives. And to discuss the challenges and the issues which are to be addressed before inviting the foreign education institution in India, we have with us Shri Sudhir Mankarji, Chairperson, Gift City, who is looking after this Gift City. Just to introduce Sudhir Mankarji, he is a retired IAS officer, holds master degree from University of Delhi. So he is our alumnus. We are proud of you, sir. And diploma in development studies from Cambridge University. He joined IAS in 1971 and served in various capacities, mainly in education and finance departments, both in Government of India and Gujarat. His last assignment was the Chief Secretary, Government of Gujarat. After superannuation from the services, he took the charge of the non-executive chairman of Gujarat International Finance Tech, in short we call Gift City, which was recently notified as India's first IFSC. He serves as independent director on many companies and PSUs. He's also the chairman of Gujarat Institute of Desert Ecology, Bhuj, Indian Institute of Public Health, and so many things. He is currently serving as member of the committee to formulate new education policy also. He is a person who has contributed a lot for the development of not only Gujarat, but also India. I know him personally also. He has done extremely well. I would like to request him to share his views about the whole concept, about the Gift City.
Thank you.
Sudhir Mankarji.
Thank you, Professor Yogesh Singh. Since the budget announcement about setting up a foreign university is in Gift City, I thought initially I would share with you what Gift City is all about. Now, I know that some of you are very familiar with Gift City. Professor Jain has been on our board for several years. But for those who are not familiar, let me take you back to 2006 when the discussions on setting up the Gift City started. The then Chief Minister, Mr. Modi, used to travel, Singapore, Shanghai, Hong Kong. And wherever we went, we found Indians in very high positions in business, in industry, in technology, in virtually every field. And he used to say, ki, all these talented Indians, why do they have to go abroad to work? Why can't we do something so that they can work in India? What the work they are doing abroad, they can do in India. And that's how the vision for Gift City started. And I take you back again to 2007, when in one of the speeches, he made, this statement. One is, of course, to use the in-house financial business acumen of Gujaratis and Indians. But the more important words are technology, infrastructure, and a space in the global financial world. This is, in a way, our mission statement. And GIFT, which is Gujarat International, right from that point of view, the vision was that it will be an international business center, not just for the Indian businesses. All financial services run on the back of technology, so we must have the highest level of technology to run this city, and infrastructure. After all, what do you need to create to attract Indians to work here, to come back from abroad and not go out to work? So we first started on working on an infrastructure rollout. And some of the things which have happened, I'll run through very quickly for you. One is in this city, and perhaps this is the only city in India where you can drink tap water. Next, please. This is the only city where we have an integrated system for collection and processing of the garbage waste. Garbage, once you dump it in the chute, it is with very high, cyclone vacuum effect. It is sucked away, taken to a processing center. It is segregated, it is processed, and only what cannot be processed goes into a landfill site. Ultimately, we'll have an incinerator for that also. Next. There is no individual air conditioning in any building in Gift City. The whole city is air conditioned through a district cooling system, which chills water, which is transported by pipes to the basement of every building. There are heat exchangers and there are fans which circulate cool water throughout the building. This is highly energy efficient, and it does not, and because of this, we don't have any window or split air conditioners hanging out from offices or residences. This is the view of the tunnel. This city will never get dug up because all utilities are put in a huge tunnel. There are pipes, there are cables, and this is so big that a maintenance vehicle can go right inside the tunnel and make repairs when they are needed. There are sensors, there are cameras which detect faults as they happen. So far, none has happened to attend to all maintenance requirements. We had laid out 44 kilometers of road, but more important from what the PM said, we have 40 kilometers of optic fibers running right across the city to provide a high technology base. All utilities, all services are digitally monitored, and we have a master control room, which is called the City Controller Control Center, to monitor all the utilities and all services which are provided in Gift City. Once the infrastructure is created, you need good office space. And we have office space which is as good as any you will find in the world. These are photographs of some of the towers which are already occupied and functioning. These are towers which are under construction. To make it a complete city, we also need social infrastructure. So we have a hotel, we have a club, we have a school, the Jamnabai Nursery School, which already has 2,000 students. We have affordable housing. And the university, the setting up of a university is a continuation of the need to provide full infrastructure to the Gift City. Now, this is a snapshot of what we have done till now. We have attracted investment worth about 10,500 crores. The land value has risen from 360 crores to 6,000 crores. Exports of services up to December about 2,500 crores. and more than 12,000 people are today employed in GIFT City. What makes this city unique is that it has two parts. It has a domestic zone and it has a SEZ. But what makes it unique is that as a part of, under the SEZ law, Government of India has notified a GIFT International Financial Services Center, IFSC, about which my colleague Mr. Injeti will talk more. But to understand what this IFSC is all about, it is to develop IFSC into a well-diversified, globally competitive for international banking, insurance, and capital markets. These are the three verticals. Banking, we have more than a dozen international banking units in IFSC. We have a State Bank of India branch in Frankfurt. The State Bank of India, IBU, does the same, which its branch in Frankfurt can do. Similarly, insurance, we write insurance policy, which would otherwise be written from London or Singapore. We have two international exchanges, the BSE and NSE, which deal only with foreign equities, foreign capital instruments. Next, please. And now the context for the discussion today. Mr. Yogesh Singh has already outlined the budget announcement which the finance minister made. The most important part of this is, as he mentioned, exempt from domestic regulations. In my 45 years of public life, I have never seen an announcement which makes a reference of exemption from domestic regulations. And this should make the coming of a foreign university possible. My last word is that, as the PM said, the focus of our discussion should be on how to operationalize this budget announcement. So we'll be looking up to experts like you to advise us and to guide us on how to bring a foreign university and also the other institutions eventually to GIFT City. The advantages that we have is that it's virtually like a foreign territory. They will charge fees in dollars. There will be no regulations from UGC or AICTE. They can award their own degrees and to all extent and purposes function like a campus or an institution of a reputed foreign university. And this is the context. If you go back to the last slide, today total expenditure by Indian students is expected to go up to $80 billion, and number of students from 0.77 million to 1.8. This is our target. These are the students for whom we have to bring this institution in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mankad. You have explained everything wonderfully to all of us, and you have created such facilities which, if I have to say, the dream facilities for everyone. Thanks for your hard work, and we hope that many good things, many good initiatives will come. As we all know, Professor Mankad and Prime Minister both have said, and Finance Minister has also announced that the universities which will come in this gift area will be free from domestic regulations. We don't have any idea what will happen, but there is the authority IFSCA that will frame International Financial Service Center Authority, that will frame some regulations for the smooth functioning of such institutions, which is announced in the budget. And we have with us Shri Injeti Srinivas, Chairperson, International Financial Service Center Authority. To introduce him to the audience, Shri Inderjit Srinivas belonged to 1983 batch of the Indian Administrative Services, Odisha cadre. He retired from the service on superannuation on May 2020, after serving 37 years in various capacities in Government of Odisha and Government of India. He is also the graduate of Shri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. We are proud of you, sir. You are our alum, as Mr. Mankad is also our alum. Yes, Delhi University has produced good number of accomplished Indian citizens, and this is the beauty of the education system. And when we are now implementing the institutions, inviting world-class institution in India, I think many good things will come. And he did his master's also from business administration from Strickland Graduate Business School in UK. And he was deeply involved in liberalization of FDI policy and industry policy reforms, including placing most sectors under the automatic route and delicensing most industrial sector. He has been an accomplished career. He performed very well as an IAS officer, and now also he is serving, and he has given very important task to head this International Financial Service Center Authority, and which he assumed the responsibility of chairperson of this authority on 9th of July 2020. May I request you to share your views, and particularly the regulation part of it, if when we are inviting the institutions and they are free from the domestic regulations, they are free from so many things. I'm not saying hurdles, they are free from so many things, and you have to frame those such regulations. Mr. Injeti Srinivasji, please. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Professor Yogesh Singh, and distinguished panelists and participants. I think it is a landmark moment in the development of IFSC here in Gift City in Gujarat. I think I'll just make a 2-minute introduction about this IFSC and IFSCA to put things in perspective, especially in the context of this announcement with respect to world universities being set up here. As we are all aware, as we started globalizing and integrating with the global economy, a lot of financial services, have been procured from offshore jurisdictions, and billions of dollars were flowing out of the country. And way back in 2007, a high-power expert committee, popularly known as the Percy Mystery Committee, made 3 to 4 recommendations. Why I'm stating that is that's exactly what I see in the present context. Also, it's applicable. So they said that when we have a very well-developed financial sector and a very strong regulatory system, why should we procure these international financial services from overseas? Why can't we cater to our own requirements and also supply the services to rest of the world? So what the committee said is 3 things. One, they said that we need to have a unified regulator so that there is full coordination between all the regulations relating to the 4 different verticals in the financial sector: banking, fund management, capital markets, and insurance and pension. Second, they said that we need to go for full capital account convertibility way back in 2007 within 24 months. And third, they emphasized on ease of doing business. So they said that we cannot have complicated regulations. We should be aligned with the global system, and there should be a high degree of ease of doing business. Unfortunately, at that time with the global financial crisis, I think capital account convertibility, etc., was not at all a feasible proposition. It went to the back burner. But later, the same thing I feel has been now experimented, adopting an enclave approach. So we have here the GIFT IFSC. It's an enclave. It is treated as a foreign territory under the Foreign Exchange Management Act as a separate financial jurisdiction, international jurisdiction. Here we have that single unified regulator for all the verticals of the financial sector. We have full capital account convertibility. That means in the GIFT IFSC, FEMA does not apply. And we also have the powers to put in place a globally aligned best-in-class regulatory system. So what I'm only trying to say is that what was difficult to implement in the country at large, we are trying to experiment that in a small enclave. And as we go along and we have the critical mass, it will be much easier to adopt it across the country. So I also was seeing the development of foreign universities, etc. And I'll tell you, even when I was director of Foreign Investment Promotion Board way back in 1998, even at that time, I remember Mr. Kaul was the education secretary, and I remember attending his meetings where we were talking about bringing in FDI into the education sector. Now, though from 2002 onwards, so many efforts have been made, there is 100% FDI is permissible in the under the automatic route in the education sector. And AICT has come out with regulations, UGC has come out with regulations. It has not been a very easy process because many issues come into play, right from the constitution to so many other issues of public policy and public interest which come into play. And therefore, the freedom or the free elbow space which a foreign education institution wants becomes difficult to be provided in the domestic context. So what I would like to say is, as Mr. Mankad mentioned, I was looking at the under the liberalized remittance scheme, annually about 20 billion is going out. The single largest item of expenditure is, education. About 8 billion, 7 to 8 billion out of the 20 billion goes in the form of fees or living expenses, incurred by our students studying abroad. And that figure varies, whether it is 7.5 lakh or 1 million or whatever. It's a very large figure. We are the second largest or third largest, student community overseas, next to China maybe. And the demand seems to be growing more and more because the projections are that it may go to 2 million, by 2030. So this is another very important reason that why should there be so much of brain drain? What really happens is when the students go abroad, they also tend to look for working, job opportunities abroad, and they don't come back also, many of them. So how and why GIFT IFSC has been chosen for the experiment, my own understanding of this is as follows. You see, here in GIFT, we are trying to have a concentration of all the financial institutions, be it insurance companies, be it banking companies, fund management entities. We want the market infrastructure institutions like the exchanges, and all this, we are bringing in, and now even niche areas like international bullion exchange, like aircraft leasing, like ship leasing, all these activities we are bringing in here. And I'm happy to say that over the last few years, a lot of big foreign entities also have set up shop here. So they have come here. Now, when all these institutions come, if you can have, skilled professionals are readily available, that makes it further, compelling for more and more global institutions to look at this for setting up their, regional operations or even global operations here. So I think because we are a financial center, because the financial sector plays the most important role in global integration by way of global capital flows, and huge job opportunities are being created, it becomes the ideal location to experiment, this initiative free from domestic regulations. Now, the point why free from domestic regulations? You see, in case of finance, even today, like Bank of America, it is a foreign entity. It has set up shop here. They treat it as a foreign entity. They earn in dollars. They discharge their obligations in dollars. If a domestic entity imports service from them, it is like importing service. But instead of importing service from Singapore or Dubai or Hong Kong or London, you are importing service from GIFT. So though technically you are importing service, actually you are becoming Atmanirbhar in one way. And you can actually now serve other countries also, maybe South Asia, maybe the Middle East, North Africa, and then larger areas. So this is how we have been able to, I think, marry the two and start this as a push to this initiative. Now, with respect to free from domestic regulations, what I would like to say is, conceptually, kindly look at this as an offshore campus platform. So what really happens is, instead of traveling to London to study in London Business School, you are traveling to GIFT IFSC to study. If, let us say, like they have an outlet like they have in Dubai or Singapore, they have one London Business School center here, then you come and study here. So what really applies in terms of maintenance of standards, etc., is whatever is applicable by the London University or their own system, whatever systems they have, those systems will apply here. You will not have reservation for admissions. You will not have restrictions that it has to be necessarily a public trust or a Section 8 company or society under the Societies Registration Act and not for profit. You will not regulate their fee. These things cannot happen because when you went to Singapore, these things didn't apply. You went there and your foreign exchange went away. Here, you don't even have restrictions on repatriation of your profits because whatever you're earning, it's like an offshore jurisdiction, you will be able to send it. So in a way, whatever difficulties or whatever the foreign universities or institutions found as little cumbersome, those things have been dismantled. Now comes the question, there has to be a win-win situation. We cannot simply, have a blanket sort of thing that all of you come, do whatever you want. Nobody knows, nobody's going to ask you one question. That doesn't make any sense because in the hinterland, we have the highest potential of students coming here. If you give them value proposition. So as far as IFSC is concerned, IFSCA is concerned, what we are looking for is what is related. So again, let me also, one thing may be there. We are a financial services centers authority set up under the IFSCA Act. Our remit is limited only to financial products, financial services, and financial institutions. How on earth can we regulate or whatever, manage a education institution? That is because we have a liberal interpretation in this law. Government can declare any service or product as a financial product. So what we have done is, since discharge of financial services requires financial professionals, aiding and assisting delivery of financial services, institution promoting these professionals, also we are treating it as an extension, directly or indirectly, as a financial service provider. I'll give an example and then with that I'll conclude. We have now set up a bullion exchange. A bullion exchange deals with, say, gold bars. Now, who makes the gold bars? Refineries make the gold bars. They are a manufacturer, but we treat them as a financial institution because the gold bar has to be of a certain standard, certain specification, certain weight, certain size. Only then it can be traded on the bullion exchange. Similarly, the vault which is storing the bullion bar is treated as a financial institutions. So please, so this is the context in which IFSCA is treating this specialized training institution or a university or whatever education institution as a financial institution, and therefore we are having the power to regulate them in whatever sense, So two things we have done legally. Now, legally, let me explain you. We are within the territory of India. All laws of India are applicable to GIFT IFSC. GIFT IFSC as a geography has not been excluded. But in the IFSCA Act, there is a particular section, as I said, section 3, that government can define anything as a financial service product. That is being done under section 3. So there is a draft notification which any time now will get notified by the Government of India in Ministry of Finance. Second is section 31, which says that government by notification can disapply any provision or provisions of any statute in force or any regulations, rules, notifications made thereunder. So what really is being now suggested is, because we are treating it as a foreign land, because we want to create identical conditions as that existing in Singapore, which largely India has contributed to the development of Singapore, whether it is the professionals or whether it is the business also. Now, of course, they may have much more to do, but initial thrust for Dubai and Singapore has been India. So now this is the basic context, that these institutions will literally be offshore campuses of their respective parent. So whatever value is attached to a degree when you study in London, the same value will have to be attached here. And for example, when a student goes to Oxford or to London School of Economics, studies for 2 years, then they are allowed to stay 2 years in UK. You know, they are allowed, they are given that permission to stay 2 years and work there. So if they do it here also, they should get that permission. Now, what is the duration they'll allow? So the point is, if you're getting the same value here, and today so many professors are Indian professors. You see, when there is so much demand for that education here, they may actually, much of their faculty also may gravitate here. So it's a question of value for money. We can't have a shell organization here doing nothing, no substance here, but just giving some degree. We will need substance here. How we will go about that? So as far as IFSCA is concerned, we will only look at that value proposition, that equivalence with the parent. Equivalence with India will depend upon AIU and your processes. So this is what I wanted to say. I can't today tell what regulations will be there. That will be a process we will have to undergo, consult all stakeholders, potential participants, and then we'll come to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Shri Injeti Srinivasji. You have explained very clearly some of the fundamental concepts, that these will be offshore campuses of international universities. So student will get same feel as they are getting in London School of Economics or Oxford University or Cambridge University. It's a real challenge to create such feel in the gift city. But ideas are very clear, and because this is related to the financial service product. And that's why, here also universities should focus on financial management, financial technology courses, and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So the domain is also curved and fixed domain, that they have to focus on these areas initially. We may open afterwards, that we really don't know. But today, yes, our focus should be on these areas only. Then, we invited Ambassador Taranjit Ji Sandhu, who is the ambassador of Indian ambassador to US, but due to the time constraints, he could not join us. But he has sent us he has sent his message and the views about the whole concept. We would like to see his message, please.
Namaskar. I'm happy to join this post-budget webinar panel discussion on developing educational institutions in the gift city, cementing India-US education and knowledge partnership has been one of my priority areas as ambassador in the United States. There is a lot of interest amongst the US administration, both at the federal and state level, and the US Congress to engage with India. This enthusiasm is reflected perhaps the most in education and knowledge sharing sectors. I have connected with more than 100 chancellors, presidents of US universities over the last 2 years. Similarly, I've spoken to more than 40 governors. All of them are actively looking to have more and more Indian students. While we continue to facilitate this, our own priority should be to go beyond this traditional approach. We need to get the US universities to have collaborations with Indian institutions. We should encourage the US students and faculty to visit India on long and short-term academic engagements. This two-way mobility can be our focus. In this regard, New Education Policy 2020 has been a very important development. It has been well received by various stakeholders here in the education sector. At the same time, there have been suggestions from the US stakeholders to make its implementations more effective. I will mention 5 broad points in this regard. One, there is a demand from the US side for clear and simpler regulatory process for US investments into the education sector. This has particularly come from the US universities, which have been approved by the US Department of Homeland Security. 2, there is keenness for recognition of the online degrees being offered by the US universities. US universities have also requested for clarity on how our equalization levy on overseas e-commerce operators will impact the US universities offering online courses. 3, visits of American students and faculty members to India, especially in case of joint degrees, including internships for international students, would be beneficial. We should consider facilitating this. 4, to create more pathways for collaborations, we may need to notify dual and joint degree regulations soon. 5, for academic collaborations, it may be useful to judge US universities by specializations and courses they offer, their record and charter on international cooperation, etc., and not only by an aggregated ranking. We may see more interest in collaborations among the public and land-grant universities of the United States. Given this broad picture, it is heartening to note that the recent budget has opened up a new window for world-class foreign institutions to operate in free zones like India's Gift City. We can now work on bringing clarity to these provisions, precisely what regulations will apply and what may not. In this digital age, we also need to be able to provide information at the click of a mouse, information about Indian universities, courses, procedures, etc. need to be readily available on a single portal. In future, we can also create more free zones like the Gift City. Gift City has several advantages: dealings in foreign currency with liberal regulations, tax exemptions which could pull down costs, ease of operations due to a unified regulator, that is IFSC authority, availability of physical and social infrastructure, including skilled manpower, etc. These need to be projected with utmost clarity. We have already identified certain critical areas for India-US knowledge partnership, including AI, machine learning, robotics, cybersecurity, quantum technology, advanced energy and environment technology, advanced manufacturing tech, etc., etc. Setting up a high-end research facility in Gift City for semiconductors could be one example. Perhaps we could consider giving preference to those foreign institutions which are active in key areas. At the same time, this should not be a limiting factor. If any other foreign university or strong credentials, perhaps in other important areas, wants to collaborate. While India has a lot to learn and imbibe from our friends and partners, we also have a lot to offer to the world. Our cultural and historical strengths, our soft power is significant. We should get the foreign students interested in yoga, Indian art forms, Indian languages, cuisine, Ayurveda, etc. Gift City is in Gujarat, the land of Gandhiji. The deep reverence that Martin Luther King Jr. had for Gandhiji could enhance linkages of Gift City, especially amongst the African American students here. Gujarat also has several eminent educational institutes such as IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Gandhinagar, All India Medical Institute, National Institute of Design, IRMA, National Forensic Sciences University, etc., etc. Many of them may already have some form of existing collaboration with several foreign universities. It may be easier to attract them to come to the Gift City. This could be our initial catchment area. You would remember in our early years, the United States has been key in setting up IIT Kanpur and IIM Calcutta. We are therefore starting from a good base. We need to work together to build further on this. I'm sure the panel today will have many more innovative ideas. We at the Embassy of India in Washington, D.C. will always be available in this journey ahead. Thank you.
Ambassador Taranjeet Singh Sandhu has explained the US perspective and the issues related to the higher education institutions when they want to come to India. Now, the broad discussion areas which we have to keep in mind is like criteria. What should be the criteria for allowing the institution in Gift City? They should be quality-oriented institution. They should have the specific domain knowledge as specified. They should believe that that education is very, very important and their all endeavors is in that direction. Then the procedural requirements, some governance aspects which are to be addressed, and the legal aspect, because suppose a case is registered here in India, something goes wrong, then how do we address that? Because industry is one thing, but when universities are coming here, it means good number of students, their aspirations, their different type of issues, which normally universities faces. This also is to be addressed. We have with us Shri Ashish Dhawan, who is the founder and chairman of Center Square Foundation and founding member of the Ashoka University. Prior to that, he worked for 20 years in the investment management business and ran one of the India's leading private equity fund. He left his full-time role in the fund and to start a CSF to pursue evidence-driven and innovative-led system reform in school education. So he has experience of not only school education, but also the higher education. I would like to invite him to share his views on the whole subject and specifically the criteria we should think about for allowing these institutions and the legal and procedural aspects. Shri Ashish Dhawan ji.
Thank you, Professor Singh. And I wanted to thank Sri Mankand and Sri Srinivas for inviting me to be on this panel. So I think the presentation laid it out very clearly that our objective is to look at the 30 billion that is currently being repatriated abroad because Indian students are going abroad, which is likely to go to 80 billion, which was in the presentation. So I'm starting from there to say if that is our key objective, then we should first look at where our students go and what they go to study. And I think clearly most of our students are going abroad for master's degrees. And if we had to stem the outflow, the first place we have to look at is master's degrees in particular domains, especially STEM domains, which is where the major outflow is. There is a much smaller pool at the undergraduate level. which go out for bachelor's degrees. And then the PhD pool, which I think is much harder for us to address at this point. So my own feeling is, as I look at the 3 degrees that people go for abroad, the largest opportunity for us is master's. Second is bachelor's, and PhD will be much harder for reasons as to why PhD students go abroad. A second point I wanted to make is that, we can look at which universities have gone abroad, and typically they have gone abroad to China or to the Middle East or some parts of ASEAN. Malaysia and other places have foreign universities. I think a proper research needs to be done on this. I was just looking at it very casually myself, and I think there are about 77 foreign campuses that American universities have. There are 39 that British universities have, and I couldn't get the exact number for the Australians. But I think we can do a market study here to get a sense, because the low-hanging fruit will be to go after people who already have some campus abroad and go and invite them to come to GIFT City. In my own experience, and Pramad can also speak to this, as we have interacted with a lot of top universities, I don't see any of the top, 30, 40, 50 American universities coming. And so I think we should be very clear in terms of who we are trying to target and be very realistic, because many of these, I went to Yale undergrad, and Yale went to Singapore really because the Singaporeans gave them $300 million and underwrote everything. And even that caused a huge furor with the faculty. So I think we have to be very realistic in terms of what types of institutions we are going to attract into GIFT City. A third point I wanted to make is that the world has changed also. And I think we should be very innovative, given that we have the freedom and flexibility. And I wanted to understand this further, is that apart from getting universities to physically come or to set up joint ventures, both of which are possibilities. So one is they come on their own, which I think, as you've probably seen in China, there are many that have gone on their own. There are many others that have done it in partnership with local institutions at the university level, but also at the program level. So I think we can map that out and look at those are clear opportunities. I think a second opportunity is online programs. You may have already seen that, I haven't looked at the latest data, but I think about a third of master's degrees, and if that's our first area we want to target, because Indian students primarily go for master's degrees, about a third of them now are online degrees in the US. And so I think being flexible in terms of online degree with some hybrid component that they can offer through GIFT City will allow us to very quickly, without setting up a lot of infrastructure, a student can get access to a master's degree, physically even, be at a campus part-time, not necessarily full-time in GIFT City. And so this is something I just wanted to throw out there, because hybrid programs at the master's level in particularly, online and hybrid programs are going to grow because there's a huge opportunity cost for a master's program. And I think this is something that already US universities have these online master's programs. They're looking to expand their market. And if we can create some interesting hybrid programs in particular, I think that could be an opportunity. I think a third one to look at is really being a little bit disruptive, to be honest. If our students are going abroad, primarily in STEM subjects for master's degrees, and that's the largest number, there are, as you know, that some of the large companies like Google offer certifications on Coursera and other platforms. I think looking beyond universities, even at, tech companies to entice them, because I think they are now getting more into education over time. And to the extent we have flexibility in terms of constructing, particularly master's degrees, certifications, etc., I think thinking beyond universities as well to people who may be able to provide certificates and degrees of value to students. Value in the marketplace is what I mean, is something I would look at. So I just wanted to first put some of these options on the table before we talk about, specific, what we can specifically do to entice these. I just wanted to, and hear others as well, in terms of who is our target segment, who are we really trying to attract, how flexible are we? Because basis that, I think we can then figure out, what is the best mechanism to attract these people, and what are the rules and governance mechanisms that we then need to define as part of the GIFT City initiative. So I'll just stop there, Professor Singh, and turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ashish Dhawan. You have given a very different perspective on the whole subject. Now we have with us Professor Sudhir Jain, who is presently the Vice Chancellor of Banaras Hindu University. And Ambassador Taranjit Singh has mentioned a very good institution in Gandhinagar, IIT Gandhinagar. He is the founder director, served 2 complete terms, and he was in the 3rd term when Government of India decided him to give another responsibility of the Vice Chancellor of Banaras Hindu University. Professor Jain is an accomplished educationist and 28th Vice Chancellor of Banaras Hindu University. He is a civil engineer by education and has formerly served 3 terms as founding director of IIT Gandhinagar. When it comes to his research, he works in systematic design codes, dynamics of buildings. He's an expert in so many areas. And he's also, I'm happy to announce, Padma Shri for Science and Engineering was conferred to him in 2021. He is basically an institution builder. And may I invite Professor Sudhir Jain to share his views on the whole subject, particularly the criteria for allowing institutions in GIFT City, and how would we address many, many things which will emerge out of the foreign educational institutions in GIFT City. Please, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Singh. Thank you, everybody. The fact that I'm speaking after several very, very distinguished, very enlightened colleagues have spoken makes my job a little bit easier. And I wish to take a little bit more broad perspective. I would like to say that this budget announcement, as Mankat Sahab said, that in his 45 years of public service, this is the first time he saw such a statement in a budget about regulations in education. I would say it is indeed very exciting. It means that it is being understood that regulation is really a problem for us, and it is being recognized loud and clear. And having served in IIT system for many, many years, and only about 6-7 weeks back, having gone into administrative responsibility at a central university, and a very, very renowned central university, which is a 110-year-old institution, much before UGC was born and things like that, before regulations were born, I would say that the contrast of what regulation can do or cannot allow to do is a clear indication of IIT versus central university. In IIT, my board, for example, was allowed to do a building committee of 7 experts, any experts. My board could decide any 7 people. And we chose the best in the country, and we did a fantastic construction. But when I came to Banaras, I was told, no, you cannot do all of that. You have to have a ex officio superintending engineer of water department, ex officio electrical engineer from electrical department, ex officio chief engineer from CPWD, ex officio principal of an engineering college, ex officio head of civil engineering department of the nearest engineering college, and so on and so forth. What I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, here is that I'm not even talking about education. I'm talking about making a building, how we have tied ourselves down in regulations. And I think it is very loud and clear. And I'm very excited at this possibility that we might not stop here. We might actually go beyond removing these regulations. I take a slight contra view of what a foreign university brings to India. I don't see it in a shorter term of the graduating some of our students. They're saving us some foreign exchange. Some of the dollars that were going to London or to New York will now be spent in India. I see much bigger thing. I think India is suffering because of poor education. I think India is really paying very, very heavy price of our universities not doing as well. So what I see in the foreign university coming to India is really the governance system. I see we getting a much closer view of how a good governance in a university means, how university should not be governed the same way that civil service or a police service or a income tax service is governed. I see also a very significant value proposition in terms of the internal culture within the university. We, the university people, may complain about the government, we may complain about UGC, we may complain about the regulations, but the fact is that even within our own universities, the internal culture, the internal value systems leave much to be desired. And to me, bringing in good foreign universities to India enables us to get much closer view of that, and hopefully some of us will be inspired enough to improve our own internal cultural ethos and values and things like that. So to me, these are much bigger takeaways from foreign universities coming to India. Of course, I'm not undermining the fact that they will teach our children who will not need to go abroad. They will provide manpower to the companies that are working in India. I certainly do not underestimate that, but I see much better value proposition in terms of the governance system improvement and the cultural improvement. And I think with that, I would say, why only to Gift City? I would say foreign universities, we should try to make an effort and see if they should not only come to Gift City, but they should come elsewhere in India. Now, having said that we would like, or I would like personally, to see more foreign universities in India, I would like to see what is it that a foreign university would be wanting in India? What is it? Why should they be coming to India? And to me, there could be two major motives. One is excellence, and second is revenue, money. In excellence, you are looking for diversity of students, diversity of problems. The kind of air pollution problem that you can study in Bangalore or Delhi, you cannot study the same type of air pollution problem elsewhere. The kind of urban planning problem, the water supply problem, the many, many problems that are very relevant to third world countries, you can actually study them in India. So to me, excellence means you bring diverse talent, you bring diverse problems, and you bring also talent. You set up your office or you set up your university in India, and hopefully some of them then go to you for doing PhD in MIT or Stanford or wherever, things like that. So that is excellence agenda, where the university might be willing to invest even money because they are getting value proposition. But the second is the revenue model, where they're seeing, okay, we go to India, we will earn some money, we will save some money, and that money will help us to run our own university at our own home turf much, much better. And I think we need to be a little bit clear about these two separate motives. They don't always go together. The excellence doesn't necessarily save you money. It may actually make you spend money. When I look at the top universities, they're really primarily research come teaching universities. There tend to be a few limited number of outstanding teaching universities, but they tend to be very, very elite, very, very expensive universities. There are some very, very small colleges in the United States and elsewhere, which are primarily teaching. They're very elite, very expensive, and I'm not looking at the chances of they coming here. Now, if you're looking at very good quality universities, you're really looking at teaching and research. And then when you look at teaching and research universities, you see that the teaching side of it, the revenue of their tuition fee is really a small fraction of their total. They're not really running their research enterprise based on the tuition fee that they're paying. Therefore, we need to keep that in mind. And then finally, the research can be far more expensive in certain areas, science, technology, engineering, medicine, as compared to certain other areas, which could be liberal arts, which could be management, which could be even mathematics or computer science and things like that. So we need to also see where there might be opportunities for the foreign universities, where they don't have to establish a huge research infrastructure in order to create a replica or in order to create a somewhat similar experience of learning to our students in India. So if we keep all of this in mind, then we need to now do what Ashish Dhawan said. We need to do a little bit of market study. We need to talk to some of these universities and see what will inspire them. What type of universities will be interested in us? And as Ashish very rightly said, why would a top university be interested in India? They have enough things to do in their own home turf, unless we are bankrolling them by a huge amount of monies, which obviously is not on the cards, at least as of now. And therefore, we need to perhaps adjust our expectations. We need to perhaps lower expectations, and we need to be more realistic. That is what I would say. Quite often, we work in an open loop system where we say, this is what we want, and then the response is zero. We need to say, this is what we want, let us see where it goes, and get the feedback loop and say, oh, it doesn't seem to be working. Adjust your expectations. Keep adjusting those expectations till you start to see an output. So you need to go into a closed loop system, keep getting feedback, keep adjusting your expectations, facilitate to make sure that something is happening. After such a bold announcement in the budget, if the result is a null set, I think we would have lost an opportunity. We need to seize this opportunity and we need to do something about it. But we need to be very, very realistic is what my concern today would be. Thank you very much. I'll be very happy to expand on any of the points that I said. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Professor has rightly said we have to adjust our expectations because we want to deliver something. We want to have foreign institutions, quality institutions in India. So we should think of a pragmatic approach, a very, very practical approach. What is happening, what has happened in other countries like Dubai, Singapore, Australia, China. So we have some models. Those models are required to be studied before taking any decision. And, another important aspect, which is just coming in my mind, that when a university is coming here in the gift city, so nature of holding of the property is also a very, very important issue to be used by the foreign education institutions. Will it be owned by or leased by or rented or something? One is this land issue and the jurisdiction of a court. These are also very, very important aspect. We have with us a very accomplished participant, Shri Sridhar Rajgopalan ji, co-founder and Chief Learning Officer, Educational Initiatives. He is an educational entrepreneur who has helped change the way student learning outcomes are seen in India. He worked in IBM India for 2.5 years before co-founding and running Eklavya School in Ahmedabad. Sridhar is a member of the various central and state government committees on education, including the Committee for Devising Model Rules for the Right to Education Act in Gujarat. Sridhar got his bachelor degree in engineering from IIT Madras before going to complete his PG DBM from IIM Ahmedabad. So very accomplished career. May I invite Sridhar Rajgopalan ji to share his views on the issues which many speakers have just explained. Please.
Thank you very much, Professor Singh. Thank you, Mr. Mankad, for including me in this group. And it's a pleasure to share a few thoughts with all of you. I'm probably one of the persons in this group with very little direct experience of higher education, but a lot of work in school education. So I will share some comments on the basis of that. But I just want to share 2 points. One, that our experience of for many years we ran for school children, for children of grades 7, 8, and 9, a program where Duke University, USA, offer for the last 30-35 years in the US. There are these programs where gifted children are identified, roughly top 1 or 2% of any society, and then they go through a program. This is quite extensive in the US with many universities doing it. And Duke University offered this with us because we helped identify the students. And for 8 or 9 years, we worked closely with them, but the program was actually organized by them. And we had people who were assisting and we had people who were selecting, we were selecting the students. Now, at the end of this time, Duke University pulled out of this program, pulled out of India actually. They were also having a tie-up with Shiv Nadar University. They pulled out of everything. And the reason was that we don't want to do these kind of one-off things without having a permanent setup in India. And they said, they apparently had explored that option and they have set up something like that in China. And then they said, till we figure this one out, we are stopping this process. And they kind of pulled out of all this about 3 or 4 years ago. But we also know that, among the groups working on this, the gifted education group and so on, they were quite unhappy. They were very keen. They found the experiment in India was extremely successful. They said that this quality of students they were getting in the selection, already remember they were working with the top students in the USA, but they said that the quality of the students in selection was even better in India. The example they gave us was that out of every batch of 20 students they had so they would work with about 9 or 10 of these batch of 20 students every year. They would say in every batch of 20 in the US, they would find 1 or 2 were kind of did not fit in. They were not able to do that higher the giftedness program, whereas they found that in India that was not an issue. They also found that it is a very good opportunity for their, in some cases faculty, but in some cases PhD students and other partners were very keen. So there was a lot of interest in coming to the India program. So we saw a lot of these benefits. Subsequently, we do a similar program where the students who are identified as gifted students in India are given an opportunity to go to US programs. And in this, we have a partnership with Berkeley University, Purdue University, and 4 or 5 other top universities in the US. We only go to the really high credibility programs which are going for the gifted students. And here too we find, and I think this is something that we thought is the most important piece, which is that top universities really desperately want top students. Like they will, in fact, though there is no connection between these top students in grade 7, 8, 9 and those who will eventually join their university, there's a lot of attempt to build that connection. So they try to make sure that these people have a good experience, and indirectly, it's a separate program, but indirectly they do see this as representative of the university itself. Of course, there's a big problem of dates here. So the dates that work for the US system is July, but Indian schools have started in July. So unlike from China, where they're able to get a large number of students every year, they get hardly 10 or 15 students in this program for grade 7, 8, 9, because we have our holidays in a slightly earlier period than they have. But 2 things we saw in this. Also, we found that the willingness of, and this was again seen by the universities, that the willingness of a certain group of Indians to spend whatever was required to send the students was also, like people talked about funds, right? So I think that was a plus that universities see is available. There is a class that is willing to spend, that the talent is there, and their interest in looking at some of this kind of diversity. The 4th thing that I would say is, what is the interest of the professors? So this again, there's another program that we have been involved in where there's a professor from, I think, the University of Chicago who's retired, and every year he has professors from top universities come to India and spend time in NGOs and other kinds of organizations working for change across the country. And this has, sorry, he's from the University of Illinois. And this again has got a lot of interest, both from Indian expat professors as well as American professors themselves. So one of the things we are seeing is that while there are the harder factors, these are some of the softer factors that is an attraction for universities to come. And I think that when we do this kind of market survey and talking to people, we can look at these experiences and use that as one of the factors that attracts these universities to India. Now, in addition to this, and again, I'll come back a little bit into my school hat. There are sectors where India both has a need, but also an opportunity to really make a contribution. For example, EdTech, we believe, is an area where there is a need for, it's not, while we talk of EdTech as technology, it needs people who are able to either look at large amounts of data or build the kind of background expertise. Another area like this is learning analytics. Now, India again has the raw material for these areas, and probably the quantum of people who have a certain capability, but if they go through a certain kind of training, which does not happen today at volume, is something that there is a win-win there. There's a benefit for India, and there is a raw material for these universities who would obviously benefit from this both financially and from the fact that it's their name, the research, and the data going to them. So I felt that there were certain strategic areas like this. And I know that the focus is on financial and tech skills. It's just that EdTech can cover these areas to start with and then move on to other areas. A similar kind of aspect is, just the training of teachers. I know that even in the past in Gujarat, there was an attempt to say that how can we train teachers who can then be made available to elsewhere in the world. And this again is just the human resource that's available in India, an area where it is good for India also and of some interest to the universities to work in these areas. So I think I will, the last point I wanted to mention is this whole concept of science of learning, which is that, in medicine is sometimes called the youngest science, because before 1930, none of what we today call medicine really existed. There was no diagnosis, there was no treatment of this kind. Everything that we use, whether it is for a virus or for cancer, has been developed after the 1930s. And so medicine is called the youngest science. Now, such a science of learning has not yet been developed. We still do it in a different way.
Thank you.
Area where there is a potential contribution that can happen together.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sridhar. Now we have with us Shailendra. Shailendra is a co-founder, chief operating officer, and chief development officer of ICAGRID, first of its kind multidisciplinary research university in India, planned to launch by 2022. And he has an MBA from Kelly School of Business, Indiana University, and BTech in mechanical engineering from IIT Kharagpur. He was an administrator in two world-class universities, multidisciplinary research universities, University of California at Berkeley and University of California at San Diego. So he has international exposure, and as an administrator, he must have experienced so many issues and the total chemistry of a world-class institution. May I request Shailendra ji to share his views?
Thank you, Dr. Singh, for inviting me to this very exciting discussion. I would actually echo what Professor Sudhir Jain mentioned. It's a very exciting opportunity with the exemptions of the regulations that are being proposed in the GIFT City. Actually, after Berkeley and UC San Diego, I wrote a book on India and its higher education system. And Professor Jain was one of the people I interviewed, along with several people in this audience like Ashish Dhawan, Pramad Sinha, even Sridhar. So it's something that I deeply care about. Having those exemptions on regulation is really, really attractive. And I think there is no question if we can attract, and I underline the part if we can attract great universities, world-class multidisciplinary research universities to come and set up a campus of some kind in GIFT City, it'll definitely be a huge opportunity for the entire Indian higher education ecosystem, and it'll benefit immensely, whether it's students or professionals or the society and nation. There's no question about it. So it's a very laudable effort. I congratulate everybody, Shri Mankad ji, Shri Srinivas ji, and others who have participated in making this happen. The question that I do want to ask, and I have a lot of questions rather than necessarily suggestions. One is, I looked at the GIFT City proposal, which is on the website, and I believe it's close to 900 acres. And there was a lot of discussion how different land has been allocated for different parts of the campus. What was not clear or not stated was how much land is being allocated for universities to be set up. Are we because 900 acres, while is large, a lot of campuses can be, university campuses can be fairly large. So that's a question for this group to answer. And is there being any incentive that will be offered for the universities in terms of pricing? Because as Dr. Singh mentioned, I'm part of a big team that's planning to launch a university in India, and we looked at the land issues in various states, and land specifically being a very precious commodity was difficult to find the large spaces that typically universities want to have when they want to set up a campus. So it's a question that I have, and we can discuss it now or later, but that's something we need to keep in mind. The other question that I want to emphasize, and I think Ashish mentioned and Dr. Jain also mentioned, It's what is the value proposition for the research university to set up this campus? Research by nature is extremely expensive. And while at UC Berkeley and UC San Diego, we had number of collaborations with multiple universities around the world. Setting up a campus requires a different order of magnitude of funding. And without the government support that Singapore or China might offer, I don't think we have the funds, or at least I didn't hear any funding available for foreign universities to come to campus, come to the gift city. So I have more questions around that stream of thinking. One area where it might be attractive and something to think about is for foreign universities, and Stanford has done this and NYU has done this, is setting up smaller campuses, not a full research university campus, but a smaller offshore campus, which becomes a very attractive cultural and academic immersion programs for their students in the main campus. So it can essentially offer a rich academic experience for their students elsewhere and around the world. So India can become a very important part of the global ecosystem of universities that are looking to establish a global, give their students global education experience. So that may be something we may want to explore again and consider that as an option as we do the market research that Ashish and Professor Jain were suggesting. The only other question I want to ask is, even though the emphasis was on a finance-related stream, but there was also a mention of STEM. STEM is very broad, and obviously it is very attractive to not have regulations on the non-finance but STEM areas. Is there a possibility that it could, the university could be a comprehensive research university, not so beyond STEM as well? Because if we give that flexibility, maybe we have an opportunity to attract certain types of top research universities to also consider setting up a base in India. Dr. Singh, those were some of the questions and thoughts I had, and maybe there is an opportunity to, I don't know if that's being planned, and this is a question for Mankad ji and Srinivas ji, whether joint ventures would be welcome in this gift city, where is a foreign university with a local player. And that might be an interesting opportunity for a win-win proposition to also emerge.
Very nice, Mr. Shell. And during discussions, we will address this issue. And now we have with us Madam Kaku Nakate, who is the President and Country Head India at Bank of America. And she has been appointed as Head of Indian Operations at Bank of America Corporation. Madam Nakate.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Injeti and Mr. Mankad for having. I do believe very strongly that Gift City and IFSC have a huge future. And that's why I feel that this initiative is very good. While we are looking at the students cohort and all that we discussed, one different angle that I'd like to share is about corporates actually, and the corporate learning. We are undergoing a global change where the current middle management needs to be retrained to really meet the fintech requirements, the new age digital ecosystem. And obviously there aren't so many people available with that talent. And hence every corporate is globally actually working through this major change. And they are willing to pay for it. So for a university who is coming to India, they need to see the opportunity and the dollars that really, or the the revenues to really make it efficient. And this is something we can really take it up and actually go around the corporates who are going to set up shop in a gift city and get that requirement. And we could go reverse to the top universities who are offering these corporate programs in the interim, and that can be a clear way of attracting them and then taking it to the next level. That was one suggestion that I had. The second suggestion I had was the very point which Mr. Shailendra Kumar brought up is yes, people actually send their people abroad or children abroad to also have a campus, a campus experience. And we could even talk to companies like Blackstone, Brookfield, and probably government to see if we can set up some of these on a differentiated basis, on a REIT basis or something of that sort, which could be rented out. And you could really kick that ecosystem going, because ultimately, even for interim courses where you do part-time or online courses, you will need proper campuses which will really aid that, and we should not waste too much time on it. Think of how Dubai had done their Dubai Knowledge City, or Qatar had done the Qatar Knowledge City, to really attract, because it's easy for people to go to London, Singapore, but Dubai and Qatar made that effort, and that's why it's become quite knowledgeable from that. The third point that I wanted to make was, globally everybody believes that Asia is becoming a larger part of the globe, and the power is moving from west to the east. And that's why you have strong centers like Shanghai, Dubai, and Singapore in Asia and Japan, who are actually become knowledge centers. So we should actually have cross programs and be one of the parts of the what Mr. Shailendra said, a part of the global program, because people do want to come to India and probably have that experience. So for students also to have that extended experience is only going to make it more richer for us to be included in the global ecosystem. My only thing that I would say is that we have to insist on universities who are setting up that the same program should be available in India, because there is a chance of them saying India, and that's something we should really take a strategic decision and try and encourage the same program to kind of come into India. And I would say finally, I think clarity needs to be there that local universities can also come and set up shop in that together with foreign, because some kind of competition is always worthwhile from that angle. And if there is any chance of including anything other than financial tech, financial management, and STEM, I think one angle that is important is the legal ecosystem, because to have global talent and to have financial products, legal ecosystem is equally important, because we are all bound by that in wherever we launch products.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. We have with us Mr. Pramath Raj Sinha, who is an entrepreneur, institution builder, academic executive, and philanthropist. He was the Dean of Indian School of Business and one of the founder of Harappa Education and Ashoka University. May I invite Mr. Pramath Raj Sinha to share his views.
Thank you, Professor Singh. I think most points have been made, so I will just try to keep it brief. And I really have only 3 things to say. And please excuse me if some of these views sound a bit opinionated, but part of it is because I've been playing this game of talking to foreign universities and trying to get them to partner with the institutions that I've been involved in India, talking to them about bringing programs here and so on. So the first thing I want to say is that foreign universities are not corporations, and most of them don't care about going global. They care about getting students to their campus and having a diversity, but they don't think about, going and opening an office somewhere or setting up a plant somewhere else like corporations do. In fact, their boards and their trustees don't entertain these ideas very enthusiastically at all. So there's a few people who are interested in going up and setting up campuses, and most of those people today are spoiled because they get lots of freebies from governments. So I hear the same examples being mentioned, whether it's Singapore or Abu Dhabi or UAE or China. And what we all should know is that all of those nations, or even if there are areas within those nations, offer tremendous amount of financial and infrastructure incentives. So foreign universities are enticed and invited and almost bribed, if I can say that, to come to those countries. And most of them turn around when I talk to them and say, how does India even expect us to come when you're actually asking us to put money in escrow and you're asking us that we can't repatriate funds and so on. So I think there's a complete disconnect they have when they think about India. And I think if we are going to get them to come to India, we really need to address some of these disconnects and make it truly very attractive. I'm not getting into what incentives and so on. I think that is a part of the discussion we were having. But this is not going to be easy. Number two, what I want to say is that fine, the budget says it, so let's go ahead and try and attract foreign universities and do our best. But I think what we need to do is set up one entity, and maybe it's called Gift City University or Gift University, or come up with a nice name, which aggregates programs from around the world, courses from around the world, which are most useful in the Indian context. Whether they are created by foreign universities, whether they are created by ed-tech firms, whether they are created by Indian universities, or whether they are created by this entity called Gift University. That you just need one entity, because you don't need multiple universities. You need multiple programs, and many universities who are not interested in really setting up campus or setting up a whole university would be happy to contribute their programs to this or allow us to offer their programs. So it provides a overarching umbrella in which you can have programs from all over the world and you curate the programs. It's a curated library of programs, not unlike what some other people are doing, but what other people are doing generally in EdTech is very poor quality. Or they have the 6,000 courses where our students don't know which ones to do. And of course, as Ashish said, only some few self-motivated students actually complete these courses. So you need to do it in a hybrid model where we actually have some local teaching assistants and teaching fellows assisting these students in completing these courses with the programs that we are importing online or offline from abroad. So I think that's the model I would say we should definitely do as a base case, even as we pursue foreign universities. And the last thing I will say is that I think Ms. Nakate referred to this. I think we have to have a connection to employment. Anything that we do in higher education in India, and that's true even at Ashoka, where we focus, even though we are a liberal arts university, we focus very much on the outcomes for our students. I think the typical student that you would cater to here is a student that is looking to get into a job of the future, whether it's as a data scientist, as a product manager, as a financial analyst. And there's only a small set of programs actually that you need to train people to get into these very highly sought after jobs where there's a real dearth of talent. So I think making that connection to the local talent demand in India over time is going to be very important. And honestly, a lot of these edtech firms are doing that. I mean, if you look at a lot of the edtech firms, whether it's Upgrad, Eruditus, and so on, which have had huge amounts of funding, they're only offering a certain genre of courses. And if you analyze them, it's digital marketing, it's product management, it's data science, analytics, AI, management, and so on. And that's where the big demand is, because that's where the big number of jobs are. So those are really my 3 points. I think we shouldn't get too carried away that foreign universities are going to come running to India. Second, I think there's the purpose can be served by setting up one university for GIFT, which then aggregates the most relevant programs, curates that and offers that in a hybrid manner to students in India. And third, the connection to employment is going to be very important because these are employment generating. Thank you so much, Professor Singh. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Pramath Rajsinha. Now we have with us Dr. Vidya Yiradkar, Pro-Chancellor, Symbiosis International, deemed to be University and Principal Director, Symbiosis. And So may I request Dr. Vidya Yeravadkar to share her views on the subject.
Thank you, sir. And I've been listening to views from everybody, and I think all that I would have said has been said, but I echo some of the very strong comments made by my dear friend Pramath, because I think we think alike, and therefore Symbiosis International University and Ashoka also has done a lot of things in common. Sir, two things. One, of course, when we talk about internationalization and when we talk about mobility, there are different kinds of mobilities. And one of them, which we are now discussing, is actually campus mobility, where, campuses from different parts of the world are set up, on invitation in another part of the world. And here we are looking at, setting up of campuses of foreign universities in the gift city. But what is more prevalent is program mobility, because student mobility, we all know, where foreign students move around globally. We know about faculty mobility. We have just discussed campus mobility, but what Pramath was trying to highlight, and what I would also like to highlight, is program mobility. And therefore, I personally think that instead of looking at inviting foreign universities, which I really have my doubts how many of the good ones will want to come to India, even to Gift City, even if we offer them the best possible environment, but to put in that much of capital to bring in those many faculty members on a long-term assignment, and again in an environment here in India where some of us as education institutions also find it at times stifling, I don't really think that would be a great proposition. But yes, there could be a proposition where we create a university structure, or for that matter, invite some best Indian institutions in this sector, and even the liberal arts sector, and even the law sector. And I liked what Kaku Nakate said, that legal or law colleges need to be an important partner in this whole exercise. And therefore, we should invite top Indian institutions, which will be more than willing to collaborate with foreign institutions. Rather, I would say foreign institutions would like to collaborate with these Indian institutions, because in India, Indian institutions won't mind even putting up capital in Gift City, or maybe Gift City can offer them, much better deals than what it really happens when you have to set up an off-campus center. Symbiosis, my university, has several off-campus centers in Hyderabad, Bangalore. In fact, we were to set up a campus in Gift City as well, but even in Nagpur. And we know the kind of capital expenses which we can do, but we are willing to do that in India. But through such collaborations...
Ma'am, please talk about the policy, not about the promotion of your institution. We should talk about the policy.
I'm just giving an example. I mean, I can give examples of several institutions like these. What I'm trying to say is that it's best to bring in foreign institutions as collaborative partners, then really requesting them to come and set up campuses, because that will be done much faster. This is point number one. Point number two is, when our students go abroad, they also go, as someone said, my predecessor said, that it's not just for the degree, but also for the cultural thrill of going to a foreign land and experiencing the culture. Now, through such collaborations, we could develop semester abroad programs where the same Indian students who are studying in Gift City can also get to go on a semester abroad to this partner university, where the student can experience, the culture, the faculty members from there, and so on. The third most important point, sir, would be that with such collaborations, you could get better teachers who will come, for a short term here to India, foreign teachers, who will also do joint research with our own faculty members, and thereby the research output in this sector, especially the BFSI sector, will increase, which we see in academic institutions not as great. And last but not the least, corporates. Again, in Gift City, you've created an excellent structure where students can get internships. But yes, if we could invite some of the BFSI, sector corporates to the way you are inviting universities, then students will get much better corporate experience. So these are my 4 submissions.
Thank you very much for sharing your views. Now, House is, we have about 25 minutes. House is open for discussions. And, one thing which I would like to ask, because Injeti Srinivasji has the responsibility of framing regulations. But one point has emerged here. Market survey has been suggested. May like to ask you about your views And that will help in laying down the criteria for entering FEI in the GIFT City. Because the criteria is very, very important, and we have got diverse views on the whole subject. Mr. Srinivas.
No, I've very carefully heard all the experts. I think, I mean, to expect that, full-fledged campuses of foreign universities will come up here, that is not realistic. And that's not been the intention also. So I think we'll have to look at this in a very different perspective, and there has been organic growth. I'll take 2-3 examples. One example is, let us say, IIM Ahmedabad has a center in DIFC, okay, and that's been there for last whatever 10 years maybe, and that essentially is more for executive education. And as Kaku mentioned, maybe corporates need whether it's corporate governance or whether it is decentralized finance, all these new technologies, they need to be trained in this. So when we are talking about opening up GIFT IFSC for foreign universities, I think we are essentially focused on the financial sector. So I would like to emphasize on that. And it can never be something which will be, able to divert Indian students, flow to offshore jurisdictions. They will come here, because what is the capacity of GIFT IFSC? It will be very, very specialized. So I think, let us say fund management, let us say PE, let us say fintech, let us say AI and ML or quantum learning. So it would be, I think, to start with, not necessarily universities, even tech industry, IBM, can look at something here. Maybe Bloomberg can look at something here. Maybe some other similar entities also can look. So foreign educational institutions is what one is really looking at. And so I would say that a lot of interesting ideas have come up here. One idea was that of a digital type of thing. One idea was that of a aggregator. I mean, that's a very interesting, like, you have like a web aggregator, for insurance. You have a aggregator for, very curated courses which are for the financial sector and all. So I think it is a little premature at this juncture for me to be able to make any definite comments. But I would only say one thing, that as far as criteria is concerned, firstly, we need to really come out very clearly what is that we are looking for. So that is one thing we'll have to really have a concrete sort of understanding of that. And then we don't want, riffraff entities to come. We want entities of certain standing to come. So that will be the second aspect. So what all in our regulations we will indicate as a financial service will be those courses. So first is identification of those courses, whether, and certainly not undergrad. And we are just not looking at undergrad. That's impossible. So it would be specialized courses. It could be more towards, very highly specialized and respected diploma or certification programs. We can look at certain financial professional courses also. So I think we'll have to look at it from that angle. Second is certain criteria to see that good institutions set up shop. Third is criteria to see that there's a value proposition even for the student, so that that part also is there. And so I think we'll have to really look at that angle. And last point, this Prime Minister also was talking, and that was one of the themes of a digital university. I think it throws up an idea, a digital bank, it can serve the whole world. It can be located here. So similarly, you can think of a digital university, which is free from many of those restrictions, etc. And, a very, very forward-looking digital university also can be something which you can think of. So these are very preliminary ideas, and I think we have deliberations.
Mr. Srinivas, because good number of students are undergraduate level, And we should not bar undergraduate education.
Professor, but I think it will be too ambitious to think we can start with them.
No, then no project will be viable. No project will be viable and nobody will come, because most of the students are going for postgraduate studies, yes. But now undergraduate level also many students are going there, and in undergraduate level, most of the foreign universities are having students. Think about it. And we have another issue is, Mr. Mankad, if you can say about the ownership of the land. When someone is coming here, they ask for that, please give me 20 acres or 30 acres of land. What will happen to the ownership issue? Please.
I will comment on two issues. One is about land and other is about financing. These two issues were raised by several participants. Now, in GIFT City, we do not really allot land. What we allot is development rights. It's a small area of about 800 acres, and by definition, it's a high-rise city. So the university will also have to be high-rise. Now, which means that it has a small footprint as far as land is concerned, but it will have a much larger area to build upon that small footprint. Now, land actually comes free in GIFT City because government has given land free to us, and we also pass it on free to the developers. Now, just to give an example how the development right works, we have a development right for commercial buildings and a separate set of development right for social projects, and the university is a social project. Today, we charge 675 rupees per square foot of built up area. And for this money, we provide the entire infrastructure to the developer, which means water, electricity, air conditioning, all that I mentioned in my earlier presentation. The entire infrastructure layout is provided to the developer. He does not have to go to any other agency. He does not have to spend any other money on infrastructure facilities. I may mention that when we were discussing with Liverpool University about 5 or 6 years ago, the discussion was on a high rise, and they were quite happy to set up a campus on 10 acres of land. Associated with their funding arrangement, they had tied up with Laureate of USA to provide the entire funding for setting up the campus and for providing the deficit which would occur in the earlier years from income from fees or whatever. Now, I do realize that setting up a campus is expensive, and we'll have to look at various alternatives. One is specialized funding agencies like Laureate. We are already in touch with Bloomberg to help us out with American funding agencies. We are also open to funding coming from Indian corporates in a joint collaboration on a revenue or a profit sharing basis. And if nothing works, I think we can go back to the state government and request for some funding to set up a campus, however small it is. But we may also be looking at government funding, at least initially, to attract a foreign institution to set up a shop in GIFT. I would request Mr. Tapan Ray, Managing Director, if you would like to add anything on the land issue and also on the funding.
Thank you, sir. On the land issue, sir, you have made it very clear that GIFT is a vertical city. So we don't have much scope for expanding horizontally. So the campus in the conventional sense may not be a reality here. So it will be more like a vertical campus. And the rate, as Chairman mentioned, it's 675 rupees a square foot. But then again, it depends on how the state government views it. So we can, if they think of some sort of subsidy, we can always examine that if we are getting a good institution in the bargain. Of course, initially we need to position the regulation in such a way that we have a proper balance between, keeping out the riffraffs, as was mentioned, and not shooing away the good institutions. So I'm sure we'll find some via media where some level of institutions will be interested. And in terms of funding, of course, state government is always the lender of last resort, as they say, but we'll be able to find some way by which we could attract some of the good institutions. Thanks.
Very good.
And
Very
Mr.
good.
Srinivas, I just wanted to ask, what is your
Please.
definition of good institutions and the riffraff? Because at least in my experience in dealing with the top 50 US universities, I don't think any of them will really be interested in coming. So we will have to go to the next 100, 200. And even in the UK, it's places like Liverpool, Birmingham, Nottingham. These are the folks who will be interested, not the top places.
Absolutely, we agree with that. That's what I meant. We need to balance. We need to have a balance between the both extremes. We can't have the two extremes.
We may go up to 500 times
Yeah.
ranking and QS ranking, so that we will get something, and after that we can decide our own quality parameters.
Yeah, I was going to say one criteria could be QS 1000 or something, so at least those institutions are in whether the top 500 or top 1000.
I
And
think
we can
500 is okay because our Indian universities are also in 500, up to 500.
Are we also saying we are okay with for-profit? Because at the end of the day, laureate is for-profit. So we are saying it's okay to do for-profit.
Yes.
That not-for-profit concept would not apply here because you're not.
Yeah, it has to be for-profit.
Won't apply here. I just think, before we decide the criteria of QS 500 or 1000 or whatever, we should really map out which universities have set up foreign campuses and then have a realistic expectation,
Okay.
Ashish, but if I were to just take it a little further, NYU is there in almost 3-4 cities. You have London School of Economics, and from what we heard from the ambassador, there has been US pressure on US-India dialogue for foreign universities to start something in India. So maybe that could be a US-India dialogue, which could actually spur 7-8 universities, top-notch, at least few of them like Harvard and NYU, who anyway offer a lot of courses to come to India through that. So I do think we should use our political might on this because it's a big, it's a big way to enter into India. And to Sir's point, Mr. Injeti's point on digital university, they could even set up their shop, they could have everything, and they could offer online courses to even Indians from there.
Online, Kaku, I think is very realistic, but none of the top 50 will come physically.
Yeah.
NYU, everybody gives the example of, but I must tell you that they never went anywhere for political reasons. There was a particular president of NYU who had this strategy of going international. They got very, very lucrative incentives from these different countries where they are. And frankly, they've decided not to pursue that strategy any longer because it hasn't worked for them.
And Kaku, these are gold-plated campuses. I mean, I've spent time at NYU Shanghai, NYU Abu Dhabi. These are gold-plated.
They were all built by the UAE.
Built by either the local or Shanghai government.
Yeah.
And they're not feasible, I mean, in my own view.
No, you may be right, Ashish. I'm only saying that because if you have the ecosystem to do commodities, you have ecosystem to do derivatives, which we are all building, we frankly don't have so much talent in India to really understand global products because IFSC is launching global products and not India-related products. So we do need people, whether it's NYU or whatever, but even for IFSC to go, you need universities that can actually deal with future leading products.
Okay.
So, sir, if I can just come in again, Dr. Vidya here. Sir, the city model is not really going to work for us because, there is a totally different model, as Ashish and Samad just said, that they are gold-plated institutions, really offering them the best of infrastructure. And the whole motive, of course, they do monitor quality, but then they even look at students who have not really got admissions in Indian institutions who go and get admissions there. here I think at the Gift City, we're really looking at high-end, programs offered by good institutions, whether Indian or foreign, or through collaboration. But really, global standards. So I think that we really cannot copy any other.
Okay, many students are going abroad for quality education and jobs, good lifestyle and culture and so many things. So we have to keep those aspects in mind. Any other last two questions from any member, participants or panelists?
So Professor Singh, just to add to your question on criteria, might I suggest that in addition to looking at some sort of ranking break cutoff that you're suggesting from one of the reputed ranking systems, you may want to, especially if the focus is finance, which is clearly it is, it might be valuable to triangulate finance specialized rankings so that, within the set of universities you're getting some of the better ones within the finance sector. That might be one suggestion to consider.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one more comment, Professor Singh, if I may.
Please.
Mr. Srinivas, you had mentioned a couple of ideas, and I think at this early stage of engaging with foreign universities, it might be to our benefit, to this Gift City's benefit, to keep an open mind about what might be the value proposition that attracts the university to come set up a office in Gift City itself. For some universities, and I'm using my experience at Berkeley, some universities might be attractive with the notion of having access to research and data that India offers, which is very diverse, very rich with large scale. Some universities might be attractive by the extra revenue that they might generate. And some universities might be attractive by the opportunity to create a pipeline of students for their main campus for masters and PhD. So if we keep that sort of what is in it for them, it might help find the universities matching with your interests or Gift City interests.
Certainly. So with this fruitful discussion on developing educational institutions in Gift City, we do understand that there are difficulties, and this is a new idea. We should appreciate the efforts of the Government of India and Gift City and IFSCA that they want quality institution in India. It may be a game changer also, right? We should not be pessimistic about things, because sometimes when new ideas, new initiatives emerge, people are pessimistic. Yes, there are difficulties, but with the support of the Government of India, Government of Gujarat, and the corporates which are in India, we may create right kind of environment in Gift City. This may be an experiment. And I'm very enthusiastic about the success of such initiatives. And if we can create some of or invite some of the world-class institutions, we can go by invitation also. If we can do so, some good institutions will come and our students will be benefited. And we really don't know, after 10 years, Government of India may decide to replicate this model if it becomes a successful model. With these words, I am thankful to all of you for sparing time. This was a 2-hour discussion. We could discuss many aspects and many good things. And thank you very much. All the best. Please take care of yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Singh. Thank you, everyone.